Su-27s, Su-24s, and including the B model, B and C model. And if you don't know that, the C and D model of the Su-24 has swing wings. And they had the fixed wing version and the swing wing version. They had Su-27s, let's see, I said that, MiG-31s, MiG-29. So they kept this squadron, and it was flown by American pilots, American Air Force pilots that were trained in this. And so when they scheduled a mission and they took off, somebody had to talk to them on their frequency. If they were going up to do a functional flight check or they were going up to do a mission or whatever, they talked to me. And so that was one of my additional duties, was controlling the Air Force's MiG squadron when they would take off. Now, I can't tell you where they went. Whoops, barf spawn. Can't tell you where they went, and I can't tell you where they came from. I can just tell you that the reason we had this squadron was, at the time, we looked at the Soviet Union as a air-breathing and non-air-breathing threat. And air-breathing is bombers, non-air-breathing is ballistic missiles. So you're talking about a space threat and also an air-breathing or atmospheric threat. So we had to meet that threat somehow. So the Air Force, what the Air Force did is it collected all these MiGs from different countries around the Middle East, and they collected them all, and what they did was they took them off and they flew what we call dissimilar aircraft combat tactics. They would take off and they would mix it up with American F-16s and F-18s and F-15s. And the reason why is they wanted to get a look at Soviet aircraft on their radars. One thing that the Soviet aircraft have that we don't is that they're very small compared to ours. And what the reflecting value, I think it's a 180 from me. Anyway, the reflective value is called a radar cross section, and I knew the values of all the aircraft because that was my job. So the radar cross section tells you how reflective an aircraft is, how reflective it will be when you hit it with a radar beam. And speaking of that, my presentation is on radar, past and present. Now, you would think that radar would be a relatively new thing to us. Well, it's not. Who's ever flown on an airliner and looked out the window and saw this antenna turning? This red antenna turning. Did you notice anything about it that was different? Or did you notice anything about it that was unique? Or something that you wanted to ask a question about? That type of antenna is called a air search radar. And there's a little bar on the top of it. If you look at it, there's a little bar. That's called an interrogator responder. Now they use what's called ADS-B. Somebody told me that with the right equipment you can listen to ADS-B. And so it's relatively simple to listen to ADS-B, but security-wise, it would be relatively easy to interfere with ADS-B. And who has a cell phone?
Who does that?
Yeah. Okay, well, I asked that for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's say I wanted you not to be able to take calls. I'm going to put what's called a noise jammer somewhere in this room, and it's going to generate noise on the cell phone frequencies. And if I do that in this room, you will not be able to make phone calls on your cells. And it does not matter what kind of a cell you have. It does not matter what brand. It can still jam it. And this is one thing this is part of the thing that I wanted to share with you. The frequency spectrum that cell phones are in, lies in the microwave band. Now, the microwave band takes up part of the search radar band. Now, remember that radar I told you would sometimes see out of the airplane window on the airport? The search radar? That band is partially taken up by microwaves. And the civilian designation is different from the military. So if I say I want to practice jamming delta band, that's Tango band, and Tango band up to X-ray band. I had the charts on my CD. So anyway, those bands, the military jams regularly for practice, and I encountered some of that, and I was taught electronic countermeasures and electronic countermeasures. In other words, counter the electronic jamming. There's different kinds of jamming, and I believe that any frequency can be jammed. If you know what that frequency band is, it can be jammed. It can be physically jammed or electronically jammed. And this goes for all of your media devices. That goes for all of your media devices. Your cars. Did you know that the auto industry has I want to say rented, but actually that's not really a true word. The auto industry has a specific microwave band for the use in automobiles. Now, you know when you send off your 15-year-old with their learning permit, and they get into a car, and basically the car parks itself. You drive up to a truck that backs out in front of you, the car stops itself. The car goes down the street, it keeps Junior or Miss in her lane or his lane so they don't drift. And that's basically what they do. Now, the driverless cars operate on the same frequencies. So if I know that frequency band, I can set up a jammer and jam that band. So, like the previous speaker said, he caused a white screen on WordPress for an estimated, a small or a specific period of time. If I put a jammer on that frequency for your car, I could jam your car. I could jam your cell phone. So if you ran off the road, you couldn't call anybody. I could jam your car's cell phone, so you couldn't call anybody from your car. This is what I wanted to share with you, because these frequencies can be vulnerable. Use of microwave frequencies is not new. Back in the 90s, the United States was looking for, they're doing it right now, they're looking for new and updated equipment for air traffic control. Now, GPS does the work, except GPS satellites are vulnerable to what? Anybody know what that is? Electromagnetic pulse. Okay, now, the problem is we look at GPS as something that is relatively safe. And what I'm telling you is when we look at all of our frequency spectrum, we have to look at it as something that we have to treat as something valuable to us, not as something we take for granted. We have to treat our frequency bands as if they're gold, because that's what they are to us. We bank on them, we have our friends on them, we trade with them, so they're valuable to us. Now, as far as radar is concerned, microwave radar is probably the best type of radar you can use at sea because it's line of sight. Now, I know that I had a picture of a microwave tower when I lived in southern Nevada in the sandbox. There was a microwave tower down the street from us, and it looked like a palm tree. So and I remember seeing it, and I'm looking at it. What is that? It's a microwave tower. You see the microwave repeaters on the tower. The microwave repeaters are line of sight to the other towers. Okay, the microwave signal is line of sight, and it has to be boosted. Now, right now, industry has developed a way to produce more power in microwave systems. So now we can see, I read in Military Intelligence magazine last month that Raytheon is developing a radar that can see submarine periscopes if they're above water. Now that's cool. If you can, and there is one thing that microwaves do provide, like phased array. Phased array antennas provide very, very detailed return. Now, what's neat about microwaves is you can color the return. You can make it into colors, you can make it into forms. You can actually have your computer generate a form of what you're looking at on microwave, which is cool. Sorry about the presentation. That's about as far as I can go. So, sorry about that, guys.